I was watching Beast Games when I noticed something interesting: 3D track text. So I was curious and texted Mr. Beast and found out that Beast Games cost a mind-blowing $100 million to produce. I just googled it. Holy fuck. Beast Games had over 100 editors editing each video, but I'm going to show you how to create that same 3D text for free and better. And the first step is we want to 3D camera track this video. We're going to click on our video, go up to effects and presets. I already have it typed in, but you want to type in 3D camera tracker, grab it, put it on your video, and then click on advanced, and then go down to detailed analysis and click on this. Once the camera tracker is done analyzing, you'll see that you'll have all these tracking data points inside your video. We want to have the 3D text right above the players, right in the middle of the boat. So what I usually do is I go to the middle of my video. We want to find still tracking points like objects and not humans, because sometimes these human ones will move as if the human is moving. For my case, we want to track to the side of the boat. A little pro tip is you guys can use just the 3 tracking points that you highlight over, or if you click around it and then hold and draw a outline with the lasso tool, you'll highlight all of these tracking points and then let go, and it will just give you a better 3D tracking point to work with. We want to right click and then we're going to click create solid in camera. I like to use a solid because it's a better visual of seeing if the tracking data and where it is placed is going to work or not. We're just going to be using the solid as a reference, so don't worry about the size or the color or anything like that. Now we have this solid track to the side of the boat, but we want to have this right in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace this solid so it is right in the middle of the boat. You can use this with these little arrows. So for me, as you can see, it is maybe slightly too far in the Z space. We're going to bring it ahead a little bit and then bring it up. And if we play this back, you'll see that the solid is not moving and it is properly 3D tracked to our video. The next step is we want to add in our text. So we're going to right click, click new, and then click on text. And for this video, we're going to be doing the money. So we're going to do $5, boom, 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 boom. We're gonna do 5 million. Hey, yo, what the? Oh, one more. For my case, I'm gonna do 5 million, but this is where you guys can add in whatever customized text that you guys want to see on the 3D text. In my case, I'm using Helvetica Nua Bold. Once you've created your text, this is all we're gonna need so we can hide that text layer. Next, we're gonna right click, click new, and then click on solid. And then we're gonna name this element. And then for the color does not matter, but we're just gonna change it to black. Click OK. Next, we're gonna go up to effects and presets and we're gonna type in element. Then we're going to add element from Video Copilot to that solid. And if you guys don't have element, element is a 3D plugin made by Video Copilot. And if you guys don't have it, do your own research on how you guys can get element to follow this tutorial. Once you've added element, we're going to go down to custom layers and then custom text and mask. And this is where we're going to plug in our text layer, which is right here. Our text layer is layer 2. We're going to click right here and click on layer 2, which is the 5 million. Next, we're going to go into scene setup. Once you're inside element, we're going to click on extrude to open our 3D text inside here. Our text is looking a little too thin, so the quickest way is if we go down to bevel scale, we can grab this and drag it up and it'll extrude our text. In my case, we're going to do around 25 for the bevel. The next step is we're going to add a material to this, and for me, I always use Inside Pro Shaders 2, which is a add-on. If you go down to metal, I usually use Clean Metal Clean, but if you guys don't have Pro Shaders, you guys can go down to the built-in shaders right here and use Chrome, which is very similar. Once we've extruded our text and we've added a material, we're going to click OK. And now you can see we have our text inside our video, but as you can see, it is not properly tracked to where we want it to be. And that is where the solid and the 3D text kind of come in handy. We want to go down to our tracked solid and we want to open this up and find its position. Once we've opened up the position, we want to go to our element text, close this, go up to group 1, and then go down to particle replicator. This is where we're going to copy these settings from the track solid to our element. The easiest way is to go down to your track solid, the position, and then we're going to click on it and then click Control C. And then on our position X, we're going to click on this and click Control V. And we're going to repeat this process of going through the Y, grabbing the Y, Control C, go to our element, Control V, and then grab the Z, Control C, and then click on position Z and then Control V. Once you've copied the position from the track solid, you'll see that the text is now where we want it to be. Now that we've tracked our text, we can get rid of the solid, so we can just hide that layer. We can go back to our element layer. So the text is a little too small, so if you want to make the text larger, we can go down to particle look and use on particle size. If we just drag this up, it'll make the text a lot larger. If you want to rotate your text, all we have to do is go up into particle replicator, go down to rotation, and then on the X rotation, Y and Z, we can change these to rotate the text on where we want it exactly to be. The next step is we want to add a really cool environment to our 3D text to give it a really cool reflection and give it a really cool color and style. I'm going to be using an environment from my 3D Environments Pack V3 that I just released. So I want my text to be green, so I'm going to grab the green reptile and import this into our project. If you guys want to create the best looking 3D text you guys possibly can, then go ahead and check out my Environments 3D Pack V3 down in the description on my store. That comes with over 50 plus high quality 4K 3D environments, each with a unique style. Each environment is animated to make your 3D text feel alive and gives you a unique eye-catching feel. It also comes with a masterclass and help guides to help you create the best 3D text you guys could possibly can. If you guys want to learn more on how to create the best 3D text, go ahead and check out the link in the description to learn more. So of course, the free route is you guys can go on Google Images and find a 3D texture or a 3D environment that you guys want to add to your 3D text. So download it, and then I would just import it into your project. For us, we're going to be using this green reptile environment, which is really cool. We're going to grab it. We're going to put it under everything, and then we're going to just hide the layer. Once you've added your environment, go into your element layer and go over to effects and controls. We're gonna go down to custom layers, and we're gonna be adding the environment to our element. So we're gonna go down to custom texture maps, go to layer 1, and we want to find the layer that our environment's on, which is layer 6. Then we're gonna go into scene setup. Next, we're gonna click on this little drop down on our text, click on our material. We're gonna scroll down to textures, and then on the environment, we're gonna click on this and then click this little drop down, and then we're gonna click on our custom layer right here. We're gonna click OK. And I don't know if it's because I can't update element, but once you've applied it and nothing changes, don't worry about it. It's all good. Just click OK out of element and you'll see that it has changed. So now our environment layer, if we unsolo it and hide it, you'll see that is on our text now. And if we play it through, you'll see that is now animated. Now we have the style, now we have the color that we want. Now we want to add the secret sauces to our text. The first thing I add is ambient occlusion, which is we're gonna go down to render settings, go down to ambient occlusion. We're gonna enable the AO. Then we're gonna go down to intensity, and we're just gonna crank this up like Soldier Boy. I usually keep it up all the way up to 50. Now the samples, this is the quality of the shadows. Obviously 256 is going to be the highest quality, but it's going to be very slow on your computer. So depending on how powerful your computer is, I would just vary on which one you click. Just for this tutorial, I'm going to do 64 to keep it right in the middle. Another option you guys can do is if you guys have a high powered computer, if you go to the AO mode, and we change this to ray traced, you'll see now that it is a different type of shadows, which is now ray traced. But for this option, I usually go down to the max distance and we turn this up. And as you can see on our text, now our shadows are very, very dense and dark. Also, you guys can play around with the gamma, which this brings it up, just makes the shadows a lot more darker. And for this case, we're gonna keep the ray traced on. Now this option is optional. I usually do it on every 3D text that I do. But if we go down to group 1 and then we go down to multi-object, turn on the multi-object, close it back up, and then we go down to deform, and then we're going to go down to bend. Then inside here, we're going to enable the bend, and then we're going to go down to bend direction, changes to 90. Now on the bend angle, if we start cranking this up, you'll see now that our text is slowly starting to bend in. I always add this to every 3D text that I do just because it adds a little bit more variation and it kind of adds that cool sauce to it. Some other pro tips inside the deform that you guys can play around with is, I would say, twist. Twist is a really cool one where if you enable it and we go to like the twist X, we can kind of bend the text how you like it. You can kind of like animate this to make it look really cool. Next thing is we can add a little bit more sauce is if we go up to rotation. Inside rotation, if we go to the X rotation and we slowly put this into our negative, you'll see that now that our text is kind of bending up and down. And for this case, I usually just leave it slightly like a -10 just to give it that flare. Now if we play it back, this is in quarter quality, but now we have our 3D camera track text. As you can see, we can add a little bit more sauce with some animation to our text. So that's the next thing we're gonna do. And if you followed me earlier, the one problem most people forget is when they go down to animation engine, it all kind of deforms in one. What you have to do before you want to animate your text is you want to go to multi-object and make sure that the multi-object is enabled. Once it is, we want to go to the start of our video. Next, if we go down to animation engine, we're going to click on the enable it. And then now if we play around with the animation, where if we crank this up, you'll see now that our text is slowly starting to animate. So to animate your text at the beginning, we want to keyframe the animation. We're going to put this to 100. Click U to open up that keyframe. And then now we just want to go ahead in our timeline to where we want the animation to end. So we're gonna go right here, put this to 0. We want to ease the ending so it comes in really nice and smooth. So if we just highlight this end keyframe and click F9 to easy ease, it will have a smooth zoom in. The next thing is we're gonna play around with the lighting with our 3D text. To do this, we're gonna go down to render settings and then inside lighting. Right here it says add lighting. This is where you guys can play around with all these different presets. So if you click on like 360, you'll see that it has now added a different type of lighting to our text. We have basic, we have aqua. For my cases, I usually use 360, basic, or just a single light, which is just the kind of default. Now there's one main setting that you guys want to add to your Element 3D text that makes it very high quality, but I'm gonna leave that to the end just because it takes a lot of stress on your previews. But in the meantime, we're gonna add some more sauce to our 3D text. So the first thing I always add is just a like Lumetri color to it. And this is where we can boost some of the saturation to make it very, very pop. Next, we can go down to exposure and we kind of bring the exposure up so we have this really bright looking 3D text. Another thing I would add is if you guys do have Sapphire, I would add S-Rays. S-Rays gives it a really nice juicy raise to your 3D text. And some quick settings I always do is for the ray length, I usually crank these up quite a bit. And for this scene, the brightness looks pretty good. But if you guys want to change the brightness, it's right here, raise brightness. We turn this up. In our case, we're just gonna keep it at default. The next thing we can always add to our text is a glow. And this is where you guys can use your favorite glow that you guys always use. In my case, I like to use Deep Glow 2. We're gonna add Deep Glow 2 to our video. And for our case, we're gonna change the radius to 250 and the exposure to 0.1. As you can see, glow adds a very juicy look to our text. The last adjustment that I would make to our text is I think the text looks a little bit too small. So we're gonna go up to inside element, go to the particle look, and we're just gonna crank this up a little bit higher. And then we're going to change the position Y and crank this up just a little bit so it's above all the players. Now we're going to be adding some 3D track particles to add that extra spice to your video. First thing we're going to do is right click, click new, solid, and we're just going to name this particles. Click enter. Next, we're going to go up to effects and presets and we're going to type in CC particle world. We're going to grab that CC particle world, put it on our solid. And once we get here, this is where it kind of gets a little complicated, but it is actually pretty simple once you've done it. First thing is we're gonna go to grids and guidelines, and then we're gonna click off horizon, axis box, and grid. Close that up. We're gonna go down to particle. We're on the particle type. We're gonna change this to faded sphere. Next, we're gonna customize the colors of your particles. In this case, I would say we're gonna make them white and green. So for the birth color, we're going to change this to a green. And then for the death color, we can make this like a white. Now that we've created our particles, we're going to close up our particles and then we're going to go up into physics. Now we want these particles just to be floating. So for the velocity, we're going to change this to 0. And on the gravity, we're going to change this to 0 as well. We're going to close up physics. Now we're going to go into producer. Now this is where we're going to expand the radius X so it kind of fits your whole entire screen. Then on the radius Y, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring this up so it brings it over our whole screen. And then on these Z, we're going to do the same thing and bring this up like this so they kind of go into Z space. Now, if you play it back, you'll see that now that there is a perimeter box around where your 3D particles are. So depending on how your video is, we want to go into the radius and you want to play around with these so it fits the whole entire screen. Now, if you play this back, you'll see now we have 3D particles now tracked to our video, adding a really nice extra spice to your video. Now, if you want to add more particles, all you have to do is go up into birth rate and change the birth rate to 4. And you'll see now that there's more particles. Couple final steps is on our element layer, we want to add motion blur to our animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to toggle switches and modes, and we're on our element layer, we want to turn on the motion blur. And you'll see instantly now we have motion blur to our 3D text. The last step is if we zoom in and look at our 3D text, the quality looks pretty good, but right before you want to render, go into your element, go down to output, and on the multi-sampling and the super sampling, you want to turn these up if you have a pretty good PC, because this will hinder on your the stress of your PC. But if you look closely, you can see if we change this to 32, the quality of our 3D text amplifies, so it looks really juicy. And then on the super sampling, we can do the same thing. We can put this to like 4. Now we have very high quality 3D text. And the last tip is if for some reason you want to change the text, all you have to do is just enable the text layer, and whatever you change on this text layer will change on your 3D text, just like that. Now, if you play this back, now you guys have beautiful looking 3D text track to your videos. So that brings us to the end of the video. If you guys want to learn more about how to make really good looking 3D text inside After Effects, make sure you guys check out my 3D Environments Pack V3 on my store. And if you guys want to see more tutorials like this, make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. And on that note, I'll catch you guys in the next video.